He is choking like a dog because he's losing so badly. We have to put him away tomorrow.
This man is a pathological liar, a narcissist at a level I don't think this country's ever seen.
Holds that Bible high, puts it down, and then he lies.
Donald is a bully. The man is utterly amoral.
Donald, you're a sniveling coward, and leave Heidi the hell alone.
So will you support him as the nominee?
I'm going to beat him for the nomination.
That's not
He
answering
is
the
not.
question, Senator.
I am answering the question. Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
He's leading right now. You
Donald
just looked in
Trump
that
will
camera
not
and
be
said
the
he's
nominee.
a coward. Will you support him as the nominee?
Donald Trump will not be the nominee.
In 2020, Donald Trump will be overwhelmingly reelected as president of the United States.
And I'm a big believer in letting democracy play out. Well, last night it played out, and I got to say, Trump's victory was across the board. He won 51% of the vote. He won 98 of the counties. Congratulations to President Trump on that dominating victory. And at this point, I believe this race is over. So I am proud to endorse Donald Trump for president of the United States. I look forward to supporting him enthusiastically because I think it's time for the Republican Party to unite, for us to come together.
Senator Ted Cruz, once again, backing Trump for president, making that announcement last night on Fox News. Now he's the 25th sitting U.S. senator to publicly support the former president's campaign.
So, he goes from being a bully and a sniveling coward, someone who attacked his wife, more than suggested that she was ugly. Just heinous personal attacks against his family. Ted Cruz rightfully called him a bully, rightfully called him a sniveling coward, and then went on to endorse him, and now says he's a proud, enthusiastic endorser and supporter of Donald Trump. Willie Geist, what say you?
Well, again, that's the 25th Republican senator, by the way. So now we can say that a majority of Republican senators already have endorsed Donald Trump. Many of them were in the Capitol on January 6th. Many of them briefly condemned what happened on January 6th before coming back around. So an endorsement now is an endorsement of everything we know from the last few years about Donald Trump. It's an endorsement of everything he's accused of doing, that he's on trial for in places across the country, in federal courtrooms, in Georgia, in New York this morning as we speak. That's what these senators, that's what these members of Congress are endorsing, including a man who led an attempted coup against the United States government. And I love, Joe, that he says, I support the democratic process. And then after the comma, he says, but now that 14% of Republicans in Iowa have voted, I think it's time to call the race. I mean, it's just, they're moths to a flame of power. They feel like he's the guy,
Yep.
and they don't want to cross him. They want to keep their jobs. They want to keep his supporters and theirs. They're so desperate to stay in Washington that they will continue to support him. We knew this was coming, by the way, especially from Ted Cruz.
Of course. Yeah.
So joining the conversation, we have the host of the podcast On Brand with Donny Deutsch. Donny Deutsch, professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude Jr., and MSNBC contributor Mike Barnicle. Jen Palmieri is still with us as well.
Jen, I'm just curious, how does that happen? How does somebody have their family insulted, their spouse insulted, their father? My God, we forgot. Trump accused Ted Cruz's father of killing JFK.
Yeah. Right.
And so he attacked his father, he attacked his wife. I'm just telling you, I'm just speaking for myself. Most men I know, if somebody attacked their father and attacked their wife, game over.
Yeah.
Game over.
Just don't come
and
back.
They would spend the rest of their time going after that guy to take him down politically. Game over. But in this case, he's proud and enthusiastically supporting a man who said his father helped kill JFK and whose wife was ugly.
So what I think like this reveals is not just, first of all, just a lack of self-worth, but Ted Cruz knows how dangerous Donald Trump is. Obviously, he spoke clearly about that in 2016. He must not think any of this really matters. I mean, he must not actually be concerned about the long-term health of the American democracy or find it that important, because they understand that, like Billy said, they were there on Jan 6. He knows what a threat Donald Trump is. He spoke clearly about it in 2016, and they continue to prop him up. I think it reveals something more deeply cynical about the Republicans that hold on to him, is that they don't think this republic actually matters.
Donnie, we heard from Senator Mike Lee of Utah, who endorsed a couple of days ago Donald Trump, saying, I'll take what he called mean tweets from Donald Trump because Joe Biden is that bad. Well, the mean tweets now, we have a record of, almost a decade now of what he calls mean tweets, which are an attempt to overturn a presidential election, to lead an attempted coup against the government, to try to flip the election in the state of Georgia. He'll be on trial for that. He's in a courtroom today for defamation for what a judge said was rape. So that's an endorsement of all of that. This isn't mean tweets. This is a man who has shown us who he is and shown us what he's going to do if he's elected president. But I guess in their minds or publicly, they have to downplay what he is and what he represents to get to the endorsement.
Joe, I want to pick up on something that you just said, and the sexist police will come get us, but that's okay because cops are always asking me after me anyway. That is, men, how do they look themselves in the mirror? The Republican Party, I think, historically has always had more testosterone in it, and I don't mean that literally. I mean they've been the law and order party and the hawkish party, and how many of these guys had their lunch money taken when they were kids? I mean, it is just, how do they look themselves in the mirror? How do they look at their wives? How do they look at their children? Where are the men in the Republican Party? You have all become sniveling little, weak, toady, sniveling little dogs.
And Eddie, they put their fingers in the wind, right? I mean, that's what happened after January 6th. Right. This was plainly and obviously a terrible day led by Donald Trump. So for a minute, remember Lindsey Graham got on the floor, I'm done, enough is enough. And then all it took was a little bit of noise from Trump supporters, and they realized, oh, the people who elect me, the people who put me in power, they're on his side, so I better jump back over. These aren't leaders. These are people following along, and boy, they know who Donald Trump is, and they're still going along for the ride.
Absolutely, Willie. That's a wonderful point, because it shows us that the problem isn't just Donald Trump, right? There are those who are just simply cynical in their pursuit of power. It also shows that there's a character question, that we have folk who are on the Hill who really have no broad sense of their obligation beyond their own obligation to themselves. They're self-interested. So the absence of statesmen and women make possible this fellow, this person, this presence that threaten the very foundation of democracy itself. So it's an ecosystem, and Trump is in the center of it, the center of moral gravity of it, or the amoral gravity of it all.